The One Piece live action is finally here. In this video, I'm going to go over just my general first impressions of the first episode and then what I kind of expect from the rest of the series. So I've got a few talking points. I'm just going to keep it fairly raw, straight to the point, and get straight into it. So overall, my expectations going into it, I wasn't really expecting a lot. Obviously, there aren't really many live action examples that went down well to choose from. So I'm sure as most people were thinking, this isn't going to be much. But I was pleasantly surprised. I was really surprised with the way in which it was directed. Although they drifted slightly from the main story, it was samey enough and it felt wholesome enough and it still felt very One Piece. For example, they had changes such as Garp being present at Roger's execution, which completely threw me off so much, in fact, that I had to literally Google if he was there at the execution. What other changes did we have? We also had Baroque works introduced first episode. Zoro's introduction was very strange, you know. I think it was the Six Sages they called it, wherever he was. And we had number 7 turn up straight away and engage in a battle. Zoro, by the way, absolutely love him, but we'll get on to the pros in a bit. So as I said, my expectations were pretty low. Another thing I was worried about, which I'm sure many others were as well, was the animation and how that would go down. And for me, if the first episode is what we're going to go off for the rest of the series, then I have no real problems, you know. It seems animated well. There are some scenes in which you can kind of see like the jump looks a little bit strange, where they kind of float in the air a little bit more. But I think it's pretty good, honestly. It's hard to knock it. Besides that, I think in a more general sense, my overall concern was cringe, if I can say it like that. I was expecting a lot of cringe scenes, you know, like Luffy calling his attacks out, which they addressed in the actual episode, by the way, I thought would look really strange live action, but it actually really worked. I think the character Luffy plays, the actor that plays Luffy does a great job, along with Nami and Zoro. So, on to the next point. Did I find it actually match the anime series? Now, of course, it didn't, because it's telling the same story in a different way, a lot more condensed. You know, fitting all of these arcs into 8 episodes is a massive, massive job. So to get all the essential information is never going to happen, you know. But at the same time, it's not like we have to sit through 4 or 5 episodes of spoiler before something interesting happens, which is a hot take for an anime like One Piece, which is now 1,070 odd episodes long. For me, going off of episode 1, I actually really enjoyed the storytelling. I thought the way in which Nami and Zoro met Luffy and Koby was very natural. That bar where they all saw each other, it felt like something that was very One Piece that could happen. So props to the writers and the directors there. It all, for me, made sense. So general opinion on the first episode. Again, if you couldn't tell, I did really like it. I thought it was great. I was pretty taken aback. I can't wait to watch the rest. I've literally sat down and recorded this pretty much as soon as I finished watching that episode. I've watched it once throughout the day. I've skimmed over it again before I've sat down right now. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think the writing's good. Pros for me were definitely the fight scenes, the fight choreography. I thought it was top notch. Like some of the moves Nami was pulling out with that. Oh, what is that stick called? I've completely forgotten. It's past me now. But some of the moves she was pulling out were awesome. Same with Zoro. Zoro's just a badass anyway. It's hard to make a character like that seem lame, and they completely smashed it out of the park with him, in my opinion. His interaction with Luffy, like, you can almost kind of see that he likes Luffy, even though his facial expression doesn't ever really seem to change. I'm really interested to see where their relationship goes and how it looks and develops when they are actually an official crew and working together. One thing that did slightly confuse me was Zoro's choice to be strung up for 7 days. It didn't quite, like, in terms of everything else that we've seen in the story, how ready and willing Zoro was to pretty much slice anyone down. It felt like that room that he was in with Axe Hand Morgan, he could quite easily have dealt with it. Obviously, that didn't necessarily come to fruition when it came to all three of them fighting him. It showed that they did actually need to team up and work together. But at the time, it did feel a little bit off. Speaking of team ups, the team up at the end, their fight in the yard, absolutely loved it. Loved the way that they went for everyone. Loved the idea of Zoro leaving, but thinking, do you know what? That guy saved me, so I'm going to go and save him. And them eventually tag teaming, and Luffy going with the "you go, I'll go up, you go down." Really, really enjoyed that. I don't know if I'm maybe seeing things, but for me at the moment, it feels a little bit like Zoro's stronger than Luffy. I guess it was always up for debate in the earlier episodes, but it feels a little bit more like it's leaning Zoro's way. Maybe just because he's had more actual fight scenes and he's so much more coordinated. Like, Luffy's fight style is goofy, and it's meant to be, but it's very goofy in the live action. So it almost seems like he's quite unaware and not very battle ready. Like his battle IQ is low, whereas Zoro seems just like wired, constantly ready to fight. So going on to that, thoughts on the main characters and their actors. I really like Luffy. I really, really like Luffy. I think the actor's selling it so well. To me, it's as close to a Luffy as you can get in real life. And that's only props to the actor. You know, I think regardless of what writing he had, whatever he was saying, he would sound like Luffy. Even down to like the sort of raspiness in his voice and like the accent that he's got as well. Like, I actually really like the fact that they kind of, you know, to be fair, Zoro doesn't have much of an accent. Nami sounds much more American, but Luffy's got his own little accent, which I do quite like. Next character we get introduced to, Koby. Koby. I don't know how I feel about his actor. I'm not sold yet. I'm not sold. I believe he's English. I don't know, a couple of times, if there was any point in the whole episode I felt a slight amount of cringe, it was only when really he was talking. I know he's meant to sound very wimpy, and he definitely pulls that off very well, but something about it feels very, I don't know, pantomime, like you can almost really tell he's trying to act, as opposed to Luffy's character feeling like he just is Luffy. Zoro, if I haven't said already, loved Zoro. Zoro seemed like a great character. Very sullen, straight-faced, doesn't smile. That's the point. But still the same badass Zoro that you know and love. Nami's character I really liked. I was actually really taken away by her and Luffy's interactions. They really sold it for me on screen. I enjoyed watching them together. Who else have we got? Garp didn't see a lot of, but seems like he's well casted. I think he's got a Scottish accent or something like that. Goldie Roger, interesting one for me. Didn't so much like his execution as much as I thought I would. I felt like he needed to shout louder. It almost felt like he was talking to like the front row of the crowd. I kind of wanted him to really bellow all of those words out, just like he did in the anime. But it wasn't enough to really put me off or throw me off that much. It still started the series well. I still had goosebumps because I know exactly what I'm going into it waiting for. Shanks. I liked Shanks. I liked Shanks' character. Interested to see the rest of their backstory, and exactly how it's sort of shown when obviously Shanks goes and sacrifices his arm, how his crew deals with the bandits, because there's been some not necessarily gory, you know, it's not like an 18 plus, but when Alvida pummels someone with the spike end of her weapon, whatever it's called, you see the blood on the floor. Like, there is quite clear displays of like death. So obviously I'm waiting for the for Lucky Roo to point their gun and just pull the pistol off at the Mountain Bandit's ally's head. But yeah, Lucky Roo's black. Noticed that as well. That definitely took me back. I wasn't expecting that, but again, I don't see that as much of a problem. He seems like he's well acted. What I would have wanted to be done differently. For me, I would have preferred if the execution stayed the same. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I don't know how I feel about Garp being the one who was there on stage, because obviously we know a little bit more about their relationship and how Roger entrusted Garp to look after Ace. It felt like Garp seemed very heartless and like he didn't really care, like he was actually quite proud of the fact that Roger was about to die, and it almost kind of diminished their relationship. You know, we know these guys have fought legendary battles with each other. It didn't feel right having Garp stood there whilst he was being executed. So I would have preferred if that changed. I'm yet to see how it's going to work. I don't know how I feel about Baroque Works being introduced so early either. I would have been happy to see Zoro early and for the whole exchange to take place the way that it did. Besides him giving himself up, would have preferred if he was restrained by like 50 men and then strung up. But, you know, it is what it is. But I don't know how I feel about Baroque Works turning up yet. I feel like they are for, let's say, a next season. That could have been the whole season, like an 8-part, Mr. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Is this something I would continue watching, and would I recommend it to non-One Piece viewers or new One Piece viewers? Yes, yes, and yes. I have no reason not to recommend this at the moment. Obviously, I'm only one episode in, but this was enough for me to be excited and want to watch the rest of it. Obviously, the only caveat I would tell anyone who watches it is that this is not the One Piece story. There's a lot that happens in and out that makes you fall in love with the character a lot differently. Whereas someone who's gone in after watching all of the anime, who's up to date with the manga, already has an affinity for Luffy and the whole Straw Hat crew, so I'm just excited to see them on screen. Whereas someone else, it might take them a little while to warm up into it and kind of really generate that vibe for the character. But yeah, it's not the same story, but it's not drifted that far away that it's a completely different story. For me, it's still One Piece, but it is the One Piece live action. It's its own little section, its own little nuance, and it's done a good job so far. Really enjoyed it. But yeah, that's it for me. As I said, this is just going to be a raw first thoughts after watching the first episode. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, comment and subscribe. I'll probably do another one of these for the next 7 episodes. If there's anything else you want me to comment on or react to, let me know, and take care and peace.